Hello, my name is Casey Bergeron, and I'm going to attempt to do my SATC 220 video PowerPoint presentation online through this iPhone via YouTube. So here we go. So I chose to do my presentation on occupational noise exposure. It's 29 CFR 1910-95, Part K with the subpart 3, sections 1, 2, and 3. And it has to deal with occupational noise exposure and hearing conservation programs that, um, you know, are made to defend against occupational noise exposure. Um, the federal code states that the employer shall ensure that each employee is informed of the following: the effects of noise on hearing, the purpose of hearing protectors, advantages, disadvantages, attenuation of various types, and instructions on selections, fitting, use, and care. It also instructs you that you have to inform your employees of the purpose of audiometric testing and an explanation of the testing procedures. Workplace hazards are everywhere. There are many noise exposure hazards in the workplace, from machinery to, just random loud noises in the shop, on a rig, the power system, the hoisting system, and the hydraulic system. Between those three, there's noise exposure, sound exposure everywhere. So an employer must institute a hearing conservation program if the noise level exceeds certain levels. The main precaution for noise exposure are personal protective equipment, and we're going to talk about those two today. And they are earmuffs and earplugs. Another precaution is, like I mentioned earlier, having an audiogram to measure the effectiveness of a program. You give your employees baseline audiograms, and then annually you give them another one to kind of see if their hearing has been damaged, or if they're staying stable, or even increasing in the efficiency of their hearing. So yeah, this slide just defines the federal code for you that states that an employer shall inform his employees of the following. I wrote a little something on top of it. The employer shall train each employee who is exposed to a noise at or above an 8-hour time weighted average of 85 decibels. Decibels is how sound is recorded. And if you exceed that within an 8-hour time period, then your employer has to, by OSHA regulation, institute a training program and ensure employee participation in that program. This is just talking about noise versus sound. Noise is defined by an unwanted sound in the environment or your surrounding area. Sound is energy that is measured in decibels, like I said earlier. It's also transmitted through the air by rapid pressure fluctuations. That's how it travels from the source to your ear and back. This is just some typical sound levels, everyday examples of what you would kind of rate your sound level at. The humming of a refrigerator, starting at the lowest sound level, refrigerator humming 45 decibels, normal conversation 60, noise from heavy city traffic is 85, and 85, like I said earlier, is where the cutoff is for the 8-hour exposure, time weighted average exposure. Motorcycles is 95. Police or ambulance sirens 120. Firearms and firecrackers 150. So that'll kind of give you an example of what is above the 85 and what is below. So like I said earlier, according to the OSHA standards, the program must be in place if workers are exposed to a time-weighted average of 85 decibels or more over an 8-hour workday. and you are required to wear hearing protection with exposure at or above 90 decibels. So this is just a basic outline of the three parts of the human ear. You have the outer, the middle, and the inner ear. The outer ear is just the external tissue part of the ear. It's what you can see by just looking at someone. The middle ear is once you go inside the canal, through the canal, you stop at, there's some tiny bones that kind of transmit the sound from the source to your nerves in your brain, and the bones are called the anvil, the hammer, and the stirrup. Your inner ear is where the nerves are that travel from the middle ear to your brain. This is where the sound is transmitted, and this is where the most delicate portions of your ear that are the first ones to be damaged with noise exposure are. So you definitely don't want to damage your inner ear. It's very important in your hearing, and damage to this sometimes can be non-repairable and could lead to deafness and severe loss of hearing. Like I said, the continuous and repeated high-frequency noise levels permanently damage the nerve cells in the ear, which, in course, damage your hearing and can lead to deafness. I'm just going to give a couple examples of hearing damage and disease. Tinnitus, it's the perception of sound within the human ear with no external sound present. So that means, if you think you're hearing something in your ear and you ask your buddy next to you, "Do you hear that, man?" And he's like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about." That's nerve damage in your ear, making it seem like there's a sound when really there's not. The common name for this is just the ringing of the ears. It's the most common noise-induced hearing loss, and some of the apparent sounds that you perceive to hear that really aren't there are ringing, high-pitched whining, humming, and whistling sounds. All high-pitched sounds that the damage to your nerves make your brain think that you're hearing, but when in all actuality, you're not hearing them at all. It's just damage. Anacusis is a state of complete deafness, so too much noise exposure will lead to tinnitus, which will eventually lead to anacusis. This is when you are just completely deaf and you have to have either hearing surgery or get hearing aids or some kind of hearing device. This is caused by long-term exposure of noise without protection. The first steps are hearing deficiency, then hearing loss, and then total deafness. So this leads us to talk about the hearing protection. The personal protective equipment for the ears is pretty simple. It has to do with earplugs or ear muffs. And when choosing, there's a couple factors that you can weigh on when you choose. The comfort of the equipment, the noise level in which you're exposed, the convenience of how quickly can you get these in and out, or how easily is it to have these on you. Are they gonna be a bothersome pair of earmuffs when you can just wear earplugs and it'll be way more convenient? The proper fit and proper installation. If you have earplugs and you don't wear them properly, then they're pretty much pointless. So the fit in the installation is a very big deal. With the earmuffs, they're pretty self-explanatory. You just cover your whole outer ear, but some people have trouble putting the earplugs in. And the environment. If you were exposed to a huge amount of noise, you may want to go with the earmuffs, which can usually block out more sound than the earplugs. So yeah, those are just some factors when you're determining which personal protective equipment you want to wear. We'll start with earplugs. They must be provided by law in the majority of the industry. They're convenient, inexpensive, and easy to wear. And like I said earlier, proper installation is key to effective earplugs. They can be put on and not do any good at all if they're not put on properly. So the installation is definitely the most important part of the earplugs. Ear muffs, they're the easier of the two options. They cover the outer ear and they protect the inner ear. So with the earplugs only protect the inner ear. They don't do anything for the outer ear. And these muffs, they protect both. They are definitely more expensive, but they give more protection than the earplugs. They're easily donned and doffed, which makes them, convenient as long as they're convenient for the environment that you're in. Like I said earlier, that's a factor of which piece of equipment you want to wear. Some people choose to wear both hearing protection items at the same time if the noise is really excessive. So that's a big deal to think of. If the noise is at high frequency levels of 130 decibels plus, you can use them together and they'll alleviate more sound than just a single one of them would by themselves. So the audiogram is part of this hearing conservation program. It's used to measure the effectiveness of the hearing conservation program. What I mean there is you're supposed to give your employees a baseline audiogram to see what their hearing is at the time you hire them or the time you put in the conservation program. And every year after that, an annual follow-up is required. So the procedure of the audiogram is your employee sits in a noiseless room, and on the other side of the glass is a audiometric technician. The employee puts earphones on, and tones are transmitted through the earphones, and they increase in volume and frequency as each tone is introduced. And you simply just raise your hand as soon as you hear the first tone. And as soon as you hear the first tone, the test stops and the technician writes down the volume and the frequency at which you heard the first tone, and that's your baseline audiogram. And annually, after that, you do the same tests and you kind of get some data over the year of, did your hearing increase, did your hearing decrease, or did it stay relatively the same? And that's used to judge how effective the hearing conservation program is. So that's a big deal, in order to see, do I really have a good hearing conservation program? What can I do to make a difference in a better way? Or, are we doing well and not losing much hearing with all this occupational noise exposure? So that is all I have for my presentation. I hope it is acceptable and enjoy. Thank you.